Most of the descriptions that we have about the Huns are from the perspective of the Romans. They wrote most of what we know about them. They wrote that the Huns were treacherous, scarcely human, and the scourge of all lands. The Romans wrote that they looked like animals, and none of what they did was civilized. The Romans' descriptions paint such a picture of the Huns, which would get you to wonder whether the people that they're describing are of the human race. Of course, we know that this description is not entirely true. The Romans thought of themselves as a highly advanced civilization. They looked down on people who lived differently, so it's not a surprise that we get such a description of the Huns from them. Part of this bizarre portrayal of the Huns in the Romans' account is probably due to their appearance, as well as their unusual customs and their way of life. And another reason could be politics. The description of the Huns is from Ammianus Marcellinus's book called Res Gesti. Ammianus wrote his work during the late 300s of the Common Era, as a history of the Roman Empire from the reign of Emperor Nerva until the end of Emperor Valens' reign, a period spanning from 96 to 378 AD. Ammianus started his history from where Tacitus left off in the 1st century of the Common Era. Within his book, there is a section on the barbarians that the Roman Empire encountered within the time frame of the period that the book deals with. This document is probably a record of history, but may also have been used to fulfill a political agenda, which was common among many ancient historians. But even after such biases, this description of Ammianus Marcellinus as a primary source for the Huns is very important for historians. And this is how it goes, and I quote, "The people called Huns, slightly mentioned in the ancient records, live beyond the Sea of Azov, on the border of the frozen ocean, and are a race savage beyond all parallel. At the very moment of their birth, the cheeks of their infant children are deeply marked by an iron, in order that the usual vigor of their hair, instead of growing at the proper season, may be withered by the wrinkled scars. And accordingly they grow up without beards, and consequently without any beauty, like eunuchs, though they all have closely knit and strong limbs and plump necks. They are of great size and bow-legged, so that you might fancy them two-legged beasts, or the stout figures which are hewn out in a rude manner, with an axe on the posts at the end of bridges. They are certainly in the shape of men, however uncouth, but are so hardy that they neither require fire nor well-flavored food, but leave on the roots of such herbs as they get in the fields, or on the half-raw flesh of any animal, which they merely warm rapidly by placing it between their own thighs and the backs of their horses. They never shelter themselves under roofed houses, but avoid them as people ordinarily avoid sepulchres, as things not fitted for common use. Nor is there even to be found among them a cabin thatched with reed. But they wander about, roaming over the mountains and the woods, and accustom themselves to bear frost and hunger and thirst from their very cradles. And even when abroad, they never enter a house unless under the compulsion of some extreme necessity. Nor indeed do they think people under roofs as safe as others. They wear linen clothes or else garments made of the skins of field mice. Nor do they wear a different dress out of door from that which they wear at home. But after a tunic is once put round their necks, however it becomes worn, it is never taken off or changed till, from long decay, it becomes actually so ragged as to fall to pieces. They cover their heads with round caps, and their shaggy legs with the skins of kids. Their shoes are not made on any lasts, but are so unshapely as to hinder them from walking with a free gait. And for this reason, they are not well suited to infantry battles, but are nearly always on horseback, their horses being ill-shaped but hardy, and sometimes they even sit upon them like women, if they want to do anything more conveniently. There is not a person in the whole nation who cannot remain on his horse day and night. On horseback they buy and sell, they take their meat and drink, and there they recline on the narrow neck of their steed, and yield to sleep so deep as to indulge in every variety of dream. And when any deliberation is to take place on any weighty matter, they all hold their common council on horseback. They are not under the authority of a king, but are contented with the irregular government of their nobles, and under their lead they force their way through all obstacles. Sometimes when provoked they fight, and when they go into battle they form in a solid body and utter all kinds of terrific yells. They are very quick in their operations, of exceeding speed, and fond of surprising their enemies. With a view to this, they suddenly disperse, then reunite, and again, after having inflicted vast loss upon the enemy, scatter themselves over the whole plain in irregular formations, always avoiding a fort or an entrenchment. And in one respect you may pronounce them the most formidable of all warriors, for when at a distance, they use missiles of various kinds tipped with sharpened bones, instead of the usual points of javelins, and these bones are admirably fastened into the shaft of the javelin or arrow. But when they are at close quarters they fight with the sword, without any regard for their own safety. And often while their antagonists are warding off their blows, they entangle them with twisted cords, so that, their hands being fettered, they lose all power of either riding or walking. None of them plow or even touch a plow handle, for they have no settled abode, but are homeless and lawless, perpetually wandering with their wagons, which they make their homes. In fact, they seem to be people always in flight. Their wives live in these wagons, and there weave their miserable garments. And here too they sleep with their husbands, and bring up their children till they reach the age of puberty. Nor, if asked, can any one of them tell you where he was born, as he was conceived in one place, born in another at a great distance, and brought up in another still more remote. In truces they are treacherous and inconstant, being liable to change their minds at every breeze of every fresh hope which presents itself, giving themselves up wholly to the impulse and inclination of the moment. And, like brute beasts, they are utterly ignorant of the distinction between right and wrong. They express themselves with great ambiguity and obscurity, have no respect for any religion or superstition whatever, are immoderately covetous of gold, and are so fickle and irascible that they very often on the same day that they quarrel with their companions, without any provocation, again become reconciled to them without any mediator. This active and indomitable race, being excited by an unrestrainable desire of plundering the possessions of others, went on ravaging and slaughtering all the nations in their neighborhood, till they reached the Alani, who were formerly called the Massagetai. And from what country these Alani come, or what territories they inhabit, since my subject has led me thus far, it is expedient now to explain, after showing the confusion existing in the accounts of the geographers, who, at last have found out of truth. This is it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you found this video useful in any way, please like the video and subscribe to this channel for more such contents. And thanks for watching.